Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, and remember, do not overlook any anomalies. If you find an anomaly, turn back immediately. If you do not find any anomalies, do not turn back. Go out from exit 8. That's what we're gonna talk about today. Here is this gentleman looking for exit number 8. Stuff is going on. Yeah, cool. Very highly anticipated movie this year, at least by some people. And I watched it a few days ago. And yeah, let's maybe start with cast and crew a little bit. This movie by Genki Kawamura, who is usually more of a producer and writer, and he has done 2 other movies. One was a short movie that's called Duality. I haven't seen that one. The other one is 100 Flowers. Okay, dementia drama, but this might be actually important for this one, so we will get back to this movie again. So this is his second feature film that he directed, and I think he was involved in the writing and everything. So yeah, usually, as I said, a producer, for example, stuff like Your Name, Monster, Suzume, or Confession. So some movies that some people don't like so much, others like them very much. Yeah, then we have cast is very small. We have Kazunari Ninomiya as the lead actor here. He's usually more famous as a singer. Is he from Arashi? Probably Arashi. Yes, Arashi. And yeah, but he did plenty of movies. Most famous one, Letters from Iwo Jima, where he's digging a hole, which made huge impression on the director, like his expressiveness while not talking, which is a big point for this movie. Then we have Yamato Kochi, who hasn't done all that much, but has a very memorable face. Yeah. Then we have Naru Asanuma as a child, hasn't done anything else. We have Kotone Hanase, who was, for example, a voice actor in Suzume, or who was in the wonderful Far Shore, which you can watch over there at Saka. You should. I've made a video about it. It's a very nice movie. And then we have Nana Komatsu, who personally I don't like all that much, but this is a role she can do perfectly well. But yeah, you might know her from stuff like The World of Kanako or Martin Scorsese's Silence. Yeah, so what is Exit 8, or Hachiban Deguchi in the original? It's a movie based on a video game, and in the video game you basically try to get out of a train station, and you can't if you don't find anomalies. Like, you go down the corridor and you have to check, is it the same as usual or is there any difference, and if there's a difference you go back seemingly. I never played the game, but it seems like the game doesn't really have a story, and that's the main point in the movie where I would dare to criticize it for some points. Not that it actually has a story and therefore is a bad adaptation of the game. No, it has a story, but yeah, it made some decisions based on that story. Depending on your mood or what you expect from this movie, it might reduce your enjoyment a little bit. I still think it's a pretty good, maybe very good movie. But yeah, there's some things to discuss, but I probably will better do that in the spoiler section. So yeah, they made a story for this one, and they took a lead actor who is good at expressing things without talking, and we have another actor who has a very memorable face, which is important because he most of the time just walks down the corridor And that's the thing. He's the person our lead actor sees while walking down the corridor. He comes from the opposite direction and is one of the things in the corridor that may change or not change. So basically he always sees the same, I think, 6 posters or something on the left side. On the right side are 3 doors, and there's a big sign on the top, and then he goes around the corner and there's like a locker and a photo booth thingy, and then it's already over. It's a very short corridor that we see over and over and over and over again, and sometimes things change and sometimes things don't change, and then we get to the next level. And that's a very nice premise. It draws you in quite quickly, just paying attention. What is different this time? What is different this time? Will there be anything? And yeah, that's one of my main criticisms, to push the story faster and further. We have to have bigger, more obvious changes in the corridor. And let's say there's one level where there's suddenly a siren, and instead of just running for your life, because you know the siren is not common, there's not a siren every time, you would just usually turn around and run, and he doesn't. He's waiting for whatever may come there. And I felt like that's pretty late in the movie. It pushes this story further. It gives big character development. But it's a little bit silly because that's so obvious that no player in a video game would fall for that, because you would just be like, okay, there's a change, I go and I finish the game quite soon. Weird decision in the video game sense, not in the movie sense. In the movie sense, it makes a lot of sense. In the video game sense, it's just completely silly and diminishes a little bit the main point of the movie, like being invested in finding the changes, and that I think could have been a little bit more interesting. Yeah, and then they have several chapters, basically, and in between they change the protagonist and things, and they do some interesting stuff there, so that's good. Mr. Kawamura's inspirations for the story was the Dante, yeah, you know, like the hell thingy, and a no theater, like the stage, which is quite limited, but seems much larger. I think something like that he said, and cool. And it's very interesting. It's a very interesting setup, and they film it in a way that seems like they are very, very long takes. I'm not sure. I just felt like they were really long takes. I may have missed some cuts. I didn't really pay attention to how fast the edits are, but interesting is that they actually edited while shooting the movie. So based on their editing, they maybe reshot some things or changed some things. So that's a quite interesting approach to filmmaking. That's pretty cool. And yeah, so as a horror movie, I'm not sure how well it does, because it's not all that scary. So it's more like uncomfortable. Usually you know if there's a big scare coming, and there are not many big scares. It's not all that scary. I would say it's a horror movie for people who don't like horror movies and want this experience of fear but not being scared to death. So I guess that works quite fine for people who are usually easily scared. So it should still be relatively okay. One thing I thought is quite funny, one or two like not Japanese reviewers were like, oh my god, yeah, it's such a perfect setting. These train stations in Tokyo that are so huge that you definitely get lost, and it's I would say it's the exact opposite, because that's obviously the truest point of view where you're like completely overwhelmed, like oh my god, I have no idea where to go or what to do here. I would say if you're a local and you commute there every day, you sleepwalk through there, and I guess that's kind of the point here, I would say, because you know your way and you don't really pay attention to where you're going. Maybe you look at your phone, or he's listening to music all the time and all these things. I forgot which piece of music. It's the same that they used in Love Exposure quite prominently. Why not? Yeah, but anyway, so I would say that a local is not overwhelmed by the size of the stations. So if you commute there every day, you sleepwalk through it and you just get out where you get out. And if something changes, you don't notice, you don't pay attention to that. And I guess that's the whole point here. So suddenly you have to pay attention to this very generic surroundings that you would usually not look at. You wouldn't spend any time looking at those posters on the side. They're just there. Nobody looks at them. They exist, and that's it. You don't pay attention to the people coming on the opposite side. Most people don't care who's there. And yeah, so I would say it's quite the opposite. You're in an environment that you usually don't pay any attention to because you know it in and out, and suddenly you're forced to pay attention to even the smallest details, or in this movie at least sometimes not so small details, because usually the changes are quite obvious. So I felt like it could have been a little bit more like detailed stuff that's different. But yes, they went for the very, very obvious route and more heavy on the story, which is okay. But yeah, some people will be annoyed by the story. So before I get to that, oh my god, I forgot something. I forgot to tell you why 100 Flowers, feature debut movie by Genki Kawamura, is actually relevant for this one. And that's because here, of course, it's a first-person game usually. So, of course, we have a pretty long first-person shot where stuff happens. And that's another thing. This first-person shot never looks like you would actually move in reality. Like, it doesn't feel like how you feel like when you're walking. It actually feels like how you walk in a video game. It's really weird. And of course, then we experience the first things where maybe stuff is different and so on. And in 100 Flowers, if I remember correctly, it's been a while since I watched it. It was a 2022 movie. It's a dementia movie. So there's a sequence of this mother who has dementia. And I think we see it from her point of view, how she experiences her surroundings with dementia. So suddenly there are things happening that we were like, did it happen before or not? And stuff is really, really weird. So I feel like that was quite a good thing he did before. That's actually useful, like a useful skill he got before making this movie that makes more use of that. So it's a very, very interesting connection between these movies, like this point of view shots of one is a person who has some mental issues and the other one is a person who is mentally okay, but in a world that seems like it's a mental issue by itself. So yeah, cool. Well done, Mr. Genki. That's all. Back to I just want to point out, even though the movie is very limited by its setting, it could theoretically be super, super boring, which it isn't. It's quite short. It's about 90 minutes, 95 minutes, it says here. And it never really gets boring. Like I said, they switch the perspective, they change some things, they put in some new characters and all these things. where the story goes is super, super obvious from the beginning. I will just talk about it still in the spoiler section if you don't know. And yeah, it's good. It's really entertaining. The story is very, very conservative if you care about these things. If you prefer, similar to Chow, if you prefer a more progressive image of relationship or something, maybe you will be annoyed by this. We'll get to that in the spoiler section, because if I just tell you the basics of the story, you'll be, okay, I know where this is going, so I will just talk about the whole story in the spoiler section. Yeah, so there's some things to nitpick here, some things that don't work quite perfectly. What I think is funny is that Mr. Ninomiya played the character as if it's an NPC. Why would you play the main character of a game as an NPC? That's really weird, but it makes kind of sense. Like, he goes into the story without any real personality. He struggles with decisions, let's say it like that, and in the end he comes out with a bit of a formed personality. And yeah, I guess that's all I can say without talking about the story. So if you don't want to know what this movie is about and you want to go in there more or less blind, this is a point to stop. Mild spoilers. I will probably not spoil the end, because I don't need to, because once you know what it's about, it's super, super obvious. So yeah, don't expect any deep twists or anything here. Just yeah, nice little thing they tried. I mean, they put a story into something. They tried to tell us something about humans and humanity, and that's a nice try. And they didn't fail just what they wanted to tell us. For some people, not sufficient, let's say it like that. But now, yeah, let's see. Spoilers ahead. Don't blame me if you know what this movie is about. So we see our main character on the train listening to music, this classical music piece, and he hears a baby cry, and suddenly there's some really, really nasty, terrible man yelling at the woman, like, how dare you bring a baby on the subway, and annoying everyone, and I hate you, I hate this noisy child, I hate humanity. And basically nobody really cares about it, and the mother feels really, really guilty and bad. And that's it. Our protagonist goes off the train and walks through the station, and he gets a phone call from his girlfriend, played by Nana Komatsu. And she's like, hey, I'm in the hospital. Do you want to keep the baby or not? What might the movie be about? Yeah, basically he's trapped in this maze, which isn't really a maze because you walk straight or back and that's it. It's not a real maze. It's not as confusing as the actual train stations. The horror is more like staring at these very bland, is it bland? No, plain walls, and not seeing any daylight and change. I love these tunnels. Here in Osaka we have Umeda, which is the big station. It's not as big as Shinjuku or something, but it's big enough, and you feel like you can walk through half of Osaka underground, and it's really great, and I love the tunnels, and it's really relaxing to walk through there if it wasn't as crowded as it is. Wonderful. Anyway, so I feel very comfortable in these tunnels. I love it, especially in summer because it's less hot. Anyway, so yeah, basically he's trapped in there to find out whether or not he's ready to be a father. Does he want to keep the child? Doesn't he want to keep the child? And that's the annoying point. His girlfriend or his wife, I don't even know what their relationship status. She's just sitting in the hospital waiting for him to make a decision, like she had There's nothing to say about it. Maybe she's just another NPC in this world. And yeah, anyway, so that's really, the man needs to become a man and protect the child and make the decisions for the family and all this stuff. If you hate that kind of thinking, you might hate this movie. It's a bit on the nose and a bit, let's say not progressive. I didn't mind it too much, but it's quite obvious. Similar to Chow, I would have preferred it a little bit more progressive, but I wasn't really offended by it. I mean, it's basically a story that plays out more or less in his head. I don't know if it's supposed to be like a dream world or not, but it's all about his mental state, his psyche, and his development. So I can just be, okay, man doing man things and trying to manage man existence problems. So it's okay for me, but yeah, it's weird having this girlfriend character just showing up in some kind of vision or so, similar to Maria or I don't know. And just waiting for him to finally make a decision and be a real man. Yeah, could have been handled a bit better, but like I said, I don't really mind that it doesn't take much from me. It's just something where I felt like after the movie I thought, oh yeah, it's a bit silly. But besides that, it's pretty fun to see how he develops from nothing to I'm potentially able to make a decision. And of course he kind of goes back in time, and there's again the mother with the child on the train, and then he turns around and it cuts, and it's so the movie suggests that now he's a defender of the children. Of course, in the tunnels he meets a child and he becomes the protector of this child, but basically the child is his protector because the child is super good at finding these really obvious differences in the levels. And it's weird, like nobody looks where the child looks. They all look at the child and like, child, what are you doing? Let's keep going. No, just look where the child is looking to see if there's anything to see. And takes quite a while to understand that. And that's another thing where it comes. This guy with the memorable face is the protagonist of one of the chapters, and basically it's kind of a prequel story where they wanted to show that basically everybody can end up in there. And it's a nice little thing. It gives the movie a little bit more substance, a little bit more story to tell. Without that, it would be quite thin. It's not all that deep. Like I said, this how they handle this children thing is very, very on the nose and obvious, and it's completely clear where it goes in the end. I didn't mind it. I felt like it's a very atmospheric, interesting movie. Like I said, not all that scary, but exciting enough. And all the differences, as there were quite a lot of differences, were some hints to babies and kids and this stuff. And they at some point they switched from just changing small details to these huge scale things where suddenly the kid's life is in danger and it needs protection. You could just run with the child. You take the child and run, and the level would be finished, but you gotta pay attention to whatever might come and kill both of you, I guess. I don't know. So don't think too much about logical behavior in some levels. Like I said before, there's no movie scene too stupid to be unrealistic, because humans are much sillier than anyone in a movie would ever behave. So I'm not complaining about that. I'm just pointing it out that it's sometimes a bit silly movie, but yeah, it's very fun. And this is the main character, like halfway through the movie, forgets that he has asthma. So I guess that's part of becoming a real man. I have no idea. I'm just making fun of it a little bit because, yeah, like I said, it's a bit silly and it could have been a bit better. But I was very entertained. I enjoyed it a lot. So it's a very worth watching and good movie. Definitely not in my top 10 this year. We have such a nice movie year here in Japan, so it's not a top 10 contender, but it's a good, entertaining, slightly horror movie about the anxiety of becoming a parent, and that's a good thing. Why not? I guess especially now with Japan and its birth rate issues and people being terrified of the cost of having a child and stuff like that, it makes sense to portray having a child as a horror trip through the subway station, which could be interpreted as some kind of a birth too, like it's the exit into the real world again. Yeah, once you're through it, you get out and you're basically born a human. He starts as an NPC and in the end he is born as a real human. Now I finally understand this movie. Am I not smart sometimes? Anyway, it's a fun movie. Watch it if you have the chance to, and I guess it will get some release outside. It premiered, I think, in Cannes or something. So why not? It's a video game adaptation. People love video game adaptations. It's a horror movie. People love horror movies. So why not just release it everywhere? Let people enjoy it. And yeah, you too, even though I might have spoiled it for you now, you should still watch it. It's still a fun movie. Thank you very much for watching this video and see you. Bye.